Hello, adventurer. It's good to see you. You have made it to the morning grind.
Welcome, welcome.
It's the live stream at the beginning of the Geekverse, where we talk about all types of topics in geekdom, gaming, and fantasy, with an emphasis on being constructive and creating the things that we want to exist in the world.
It's all on the grind, Sizemore. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
That's exactly right. There are a lot of adventures to be had today. Dungeons to explore and monsters to slay, and who knows what a random encounter might send our way. That's why we have to prepare, so settle in now for the morning grind with your favorite beverage in hand.
Tea? Or maybe something a little stronger. I've got a few bottles of the old Wynyard left.
Whatever you want. Pull up a chair.
Dude.
If you're feeling fancy, how about a cappuccino? Or a frappuccino? Or how about an espresso?
Just tea, thank you.
Sounds good to me, Gandalf. Whatever you want. I'm just glad you're here.
Everyone is welcome. You can just watch if you want. You don't have to worship anything you don't want to worship.
Thank you, Mike. But be forewarned.
Sometimes we get really strange characters around here.
Wait, what's that you say? Why can't you come and be a part of the stream?
My wife would disown me.
Oh no, I bet she'll be fine with it. Come on in.
Am I scared for my safety? No.
What are we supposed to do?
Everybody do the secret handshake.
Secret cultist handshake.
Oh, now do wizards who love each other.
This, my friend, is a science.
I still don't have gifts, but it's fine.
It's all on the grind, son. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
Dude, this would be a sick place to bring the band.
Indeed it would be, Dave. It really would. I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome, glad to have you here. Oh look, here's someone new.
Is this the cultist meetup?
Yes it is.
Come to hang out? Please accept me. I have nothing else.
Okay, we accept you. Everyone's welcome here.
Brought some snacks.
Well, that makes things even better.
You want some coffee? I don't drink coffee. You sure?
It's cultist coffee.
What makes it cultist coffee?
I'm a cultist and I'm drinking it.
Oh. Then I'll have some.
What exactly is going on here?
I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. It's so great to have you. Oh, and look, here comes another stranger.
Can we help you?
Yes, fellow cultists. I could really use some food.
Oh yeah? Welcome. We have donuts.
Oh, it's me. I'm glad I'm here. I'm sure you have a few questions for me, though.
What's your name? Who do you work for? What god do you worship?
Great questions, Rob.
I'm Steve King, and I worship Nyarlathotep.
No, not really. I'm just Heath, and I won't be worshiping anything this morning. But I will be your host. Welcome to the office. We're going to have a great time. I've got my coffee ready, because now it's time for the morning grind.
If you could become a fish, that would be amazing. Then I could command you with my mental fish powers.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I am barely here. But I made it late, but here. I was struggling. I was almost like, oh, can I do this morning? But I didn't want to leave everybody hanging. So I was like, all right, I'm here. I had an extremely productive day yesterday. I had one of my most productive days in a long time. But then that meant that I didn't get to sleep. And then I ended up like working from basically midnight until 4 a.m. yesterday, or this morning, midnight to 4 a.m. this morning on the Rabavania movie script, which is something I have not been able to do in a long time. That project just got jammed up, extreme writer's block. And so then all of a sudden words were coming. And so I told Brianna, I meet with Brianna on Tuesday afternoons to talk about story. And I told Brianna last week that I really need to get the first 10 pages of that script done. And I don't think I'm quite going to have it. But man, I made a lot of progress, more progress than I have made in a couple of months. So I really needed it. But that meant that all of a sudden it was 4 a.m. And then I still didn't exactly sleep right after that. And so my alarms went off. I set alarms. I was like, oh, I got to set alarms for the morning grind. And I did get up. I almost called it off, but I was like, we'll just have to have a no visual kind of morning because I don't look good. So I hope you're doing well. I hope you are doing very well. Let's see, who do we have here? James. I'm feeling better now that I'm actually here and talking to you. Good morning, James. Good morning, Mike. Good morning, Brent. Good morning, grinders and those with mental fish powers. I like that. Good morning, Zero the Blade. And good morning, Lynn. Tomocrat, lots of people here. Sable Phoenix and Stray. Wow. Oh, I like the emoji here, Tomocrat. Perfect hair is overrated. Well, it's not only the hair. Let's see. What else? What I was going to say. Tonight. Okay, ordinary. I feel like it's been a while since we've done table talk, but it's only because last week was Independence Day, last Tuesday, and so that was a holiday, so we didn't do table talk there. Doug, I talked to Doug, and Doug, I asked him if he wanted to do Star Trek 4, do an analysis of Star Trek 4 tonight, but he is taking his kids to see Mission Impossible tonight. And I've heard good things about that one, and I kind of want to go and see it too. I took my father to see Top Gun Maverick when it came out, but I haven't been back and done that, but that was a lot of fun. So if this is good, I might need to take my father to go see Mission Impossible. That seems like something that might be fun to do. Has anybody seen that? Have people liked it? But anyway, that means that Doug is not going to be available tonight. This is Brianna's cycle where she would, I believe her cycle where she would not be here. I'll ask her, but otherwise I'll have to come up with something else for tonight. We will see. Vision says, good morning, folks. I too slept in, literally just woke up. Steele's Mongoose says hair is overrated. So I'll have to see. I will talk to Brianna. She might be available tonight, but if not, we will do something else. Oh, Sable Phoenix says, have not seen it. I'm going to see Sound of Freedom this weekend. I was hearing some things about this, like headlines and stuff go by and causing some kind of stir or something like that. So I have heard, I've seen that's getting some play, even though I don't know a whole lot about it, or actually mainly anything about it. But I hear people talking about it a lot, so I'm going to have to look into it further. Let's see. Today, on Tuesdays, what we were supposed to be getting back in the swing of things doing was like RPG design. But because I was working on the scripts and things like that, I don't have anything ready except, Sound of Freedom this week. Oh, Visions can go see it too. Good morning, Andrew. Good morning. So, but because this is RPG Design Day, I thought, gee, what can I do here, especially kind of here with very short prep? And one thing that I did want to talk about on this is this tension pool, the Angry GM. This is the Angry GM's page here. The Angry GM RPG attitude advice with an attitude. Most of you probably know this site. But he does talk about time in RPGs, especially here with the tension pool. This is something he's developed. And, of course, he's got a very unique style for writing his blog posts. But this is actually being the comprehensive, definitive, and final guide. It's actually kind of a rule system. Oh, thank you, Stray. The Discord link right there. If you are new here, I would love to have you in the Discord server. Oh, by the way, the Discord server. I was noticing that as I've joined a few Discord servers lately, that there has been like some kind of onboarding process where you could talk about or like let people know your interests, and then it would assign you to different channels inside. Because I was thinking, now what am I going to do here? As I've been working on more Rabavania stuff, I'm like, do I need to end up running a Rabavania Discord server and a Theophany Discord server? I was working on some Theophany yesterday too. Having a good time about that. Really having a good time about that. Do I need to run different Discord servers? Because I wasn't real thrilled about that. But apparently there's some kind of like onboarding thing that's been added to Discord. So if you're not interested in Rabavania, or you are interested in Theophany, but you're not interested in the stuff when we talk about with the YouTube videos, it seems like there's some way to assign people to different channels within a Discord server. So I'm going to look at that. I've got that on the list to do. Of course, there's a lot of things to do, but that's on the list to do. So I might change that up, and that way I'll feel better if that way people can just say their interests, and then hopefully there's also an easy way to change it. So if later, if at first you say, oh, I'm not really interested in theophany, for instance, but then you start hearing about it, that you should be able to join, I hope. So I'm going to look at that and maybe changing up the Discord server there. But if you're here now, we would love to have you. So anyway, so the angry GM had come up with this idea for the tension pool, and I like it. And I wonder if it's something that can be adapted or used even on virtual tabletops and things like this, or if it's something that could be put into Faded Edge. So I thought that we would just take a look at the tension pool today and discuss it and see what we think, because it might be an elegant solution for time. All right, I got ice water here. In fact, I'm going to probably need some more ice water before this is done. But I got ice water here. So let's do our breathe and sip, the mental health portion of the show for mental fish. 2 deep breaths, complete inhales, complete exhales, deep inhales, complete exhales, and then take a sip of your favorite beverage this morning. So here we go. Breathe in. And sip. Let me see if I can increase this so you can see it on the screen a bit better. There we go. Maybe even again. There we go. Even better. Thank you, Stray. And when we do World Building Wednesdays, that's the link to the Rabavania channel, and that's the link to the Theophany channel. There isn't a whole lot on both of them right now, but that's where the world building is going to take place. Mental health for mental fish. We will see. We need a mental fish custom emoji. Oh yeah, we do need a mental fish emoji would be a good one. The dancing cabal guy. James, I know, put a screen capture of him, and I meant to do an emoji, but let me make note of this over here. Emoji of dancing cabal guy. And also a mental fish. Okay, those are on the list now, so I don't forget. I also want to make up some more brand little brand videos, because I think those are fun. And I do wonder what happened to my break that had the Yeti hug break on it. Maybe that's not uploaded to this particular show. I'll have to check. But anyway, I want to do that too. Have I seen the latest Baldur's Gate 3 trailer? Very disturbing. I have not. Speaking of which, one thing that we could do that I said I was going to do as far as playing games go, video games, speaking of video games, is I was going to play Diablo 4, but I went to get it a little while ago. I didn't jump on it as soon as it came out because I was doing other things, but I was going to go and get it. But I found out that it's not available for Mac, and I'm running on a Mac here. So I was really looking forward to playing Diablo 4, but at the moment I can't. So, we talked about setting up some kind of Ravenkeep server or something like that, but it's not available for the Mac platform, and that's all I'm running right now. So that's why I'm not playing Diablo 4. It has a bear having sex with an elf. Well, I'll have to check that out. Sable Phoenix says, I unwish-listed Baldur's Gate 3 after seeing it. And it's done as realistic as possible, and that's kind of on the edge of illegal? Okay. No, I have not heard of that at all. I have not heard about that at all. So we will see. I'll have to check. Well, I don't know. Maybe I do not need to check that out. Oh, E. Armstrong says the bear is a druid. Okay. Well, this seems like a story. Hey, Neutromancer. I'm kind of dragging here today. It's a wild shape druid. Okay, well, I'll have to decide whether or not I'll have to decide whether or not I look at that. We will see. I hadn't. Well, it's not explicit, but it is on the edge. Well, okay. I hadn't even thought about Baldur's Gate 3. Let's see. All right, so let's go. Let's get into here. This may be short today. Might be a short good night, short good night sword. Short morning grind. You can tell I need sleep. Okay, so let's see what he's doing here with the tension pool, and let's see how we could use this, if at all. Definitive, comprehensive, final version of my tension pool rules after a bunch of you ask, what the hell is that tension pool thing you keep mentioning? And I realized it's been years since I invented it as a throwaway idea and never intended to use it. I never intended to use, and that I've changed it a lot of times since then, and I've never actually written a nice definitive final set of tension rules. So, okay, here is the tension pool. This adds time and I guess tension here. So the tension pool is an optional rule for tabletop role-playing games of all kinds. As the name implies, the tension pool adds a sense of rising tension to your game. The tension pool also increases the player's awareness of the passage of in-game time, which that's very important. Time, we've talked about a lot, that time is underused in RPGs, and it adds a sense of weight to time wasting and reckless actions, which I also think is good. Best of all, the tension pool is intuitive, easy to use, and you've already got everything you need to use the tension pool in your game. You don't have to buy any new gaming things. I realize some gamers consider the lack of new stuff to be a flaw and not a feature. Feel free to buy new stuff if you want to. I didn't say you can't. Okay. So what you need, 6 standard 6-sided dice. Hereafter, these are called the tension dice. A small bowl or container to hold the dice. Hereafter, that is called the tension pool. This will be a coarse grind. Yes. Sizemore will be, yes. Okay, so you don't need special dice to use the tension pool, but if you've got D6s with unique symbols replacing one of the sides, those work particularly well. Whenever these rules mention a tension die showing a 1, read that as the tension die showing its unique symbol instead. The best tension pool container is transparent so everyone can see how many dice are in the pool, and made of glass or metal so everyone can hear a nice clear sound when you toss a tension die into the tension pool. How to use the tension pool. Here's the simple step-by-step tension pool rules. These are all you have to remember. Setting up the tension pool. Put the tension pool in the middle of the table where everyone can see it. Put the tension die where you can reach them easily, and loudly toss them into the tension pool. Managing the tension pool. When the tension pool is in play, whenever the players take an action, you'll need to decide whether to add a die to the tension pool, roll the tension pool, or do both. You'll also periodically clear the tension pool. After rolling the tension pool, you'll often introduce a complication to the adventure. Whenever a player commits to a time-consuming action, so that's what we're looking for, a time-consuming action in the judgment call of the game master, add a tension die. Whenever a player commits to a reckless action, roll the tension pool. Whenever a player commits to an action that's both time-consuming and reckless, add a tension die, and then roll the tension pool. Oh, okay. Whenever a player commits to an action that's both time-consuming and reckless. Wait. Let me start this over. Up here. Whenever a player commits to a reckless action, so we got time-consuming actions and we got reckless actions. When a player commits a reckless action, roll the tension pool. Whenever a player commits to an action that's both time-consuming and reckless, add a tension die and then roll the tension pool. You know, when I was playing Dragon Strike with the nephews, which, by the way, Friday I am planning on playing. I'm being back up with the nephews and playing Dragon Strike with them during the day, so there won't be a morning. If I do that, there won't be a morning grind on Friday because I'm gonna go play board games with the nephews. But that game does have a countdown timer, which we said Hero Quest lacks. That's counting down until the dragon arrives. And some kind of reckless or noisy action, I was telling him that, hey, when they beat on these doors, try to knock them down, something inside the dungeon may hear them. And they liked that. I didn't have any kind of mechanic for that, but it kept them on their toes. So if it's time-consuming and reckless, first add a tension die and then roll the tension pool. Whenever you add the 6th tension die to the tension pool, clear the tension pool. So that's it. Most actions, though, are neither time-consuming nor reckless. Lots of actions won't result in you fiddling with the tension pool. During battles, chases, negotiations, and other action-packed encounters, ignore the tension pool. The tension pool is only for managing action during investigation, exploration, and other slow parts of the game. You've already got tension there. The tension pool is only for managing the action during the investigation, especially exploration. I can definitely see it there. Okay, adding tension dice. During exploration, investigation, and other slow-paced parts of the game, whenever a player commits their character to a time-consuming action, add 1 tension die to the tension pool. It's as simple as picking up one of the tension dice and dropping it loudly into the container so everyone knows what happened. Time-consuming actions. Use your best judgment about what constitutes time-consuming. As a rule, any action that takes an exceptionally long amount of time, given the current game action, is time-consuming. So it's also kind of relative to what you're doing. While the players are delving, are dungeon, or infiltrating an enemy base, most actions play out in seconds, a minute at most. Any action that takes a few minutes to play out is time-consuming. While the players are playing detective in town, most actions play out in an hour or some fraction thereof. Any action that takes a few hours to resolve is time-consuming. I can't speak this morning. Stray says, don't use metal dice. Well, no, not every time a barbarian does a reckless attack, because that would be in combat, right? Does sound like it would be a reckless action, but that would be specifically something in combat when we wouldn't be using this, right? Kronos Chiron likes his reckless actions. So simultaneous actions. When a player undertakes a time-consuming action, the other players can use that same time to undertake their own time-consuming actions. Don't add multiple tension dice to the tension pool if several players commit to time-consuming actions at the same time, because they're all doing it, at the same time. So it's only the same amount of time is passing. So this is representing the time passing, not for time passing per action. In fact, when one player commits to a time-consuming action, ask the other players if they want to do something while they're waiting for the first player to finish their action. That would be a good time for them all to do time-consuming actions. That way, they only add 1 die to the tension pool while that's going on. Makes sense. You go search this room, I'll search that room, if you feel like splitting the party. Adding multiple dice. If players take an especially long, complex, time-consuming action, you can add 2, 3, or more tension dice to the tension pool. Very much governed by the GM here. Rolling the tension pool. During exploration, investigation, and other slow-paced parts of the game, whenever a player commits to a reckless action, roll the tension pool and check for a complication. Pick up all the tension dice currently in the tension pool and roll them. If there are no tension dice currently in the tension pool, pick up 1 tension die and roll it, but do not add it to the tension pool. If any of the dice show a 1, a complication results. Put the tension dice back in the tension pool. Reckless actions. Use your best judgment about what constitutes a reckless action. Generally, reckless actions are those that ignore danger, risk serious immediate consequences, attract unwanted attention, or involve a high risk for a fast and easy result. While the players are delving or infiltrating, reckless actions might be having a noisy argument, smashing down doors, or destroying security devices. While the players are playing detective, reckless actions might include threatening informants, carelessly sharing information about the investigation, or breaking into a crime scene on public streets. Whenever you add the 6th tension die to the tension pool, immediately roll the tension pool. After determining whether a complication arises, put the tension dice aside and start all over with an empty tension pool. Always roll the tension pool to check for a complication when you clear it. Never take the tension dice out of the pool without rolling them. Always roll the tension pool to check for a complication when you clear it. Never take the tension dice out of the pool when rolling them. So this says complication. I guess that could be something like a random counter. I think we've got a table down here for complications. But I like this more than just saying, hey, we're going to roll for a random encounter every 30 minutes or every hour of game time or something like that. I'd have an elastic band I'd fiddle with as the DM as I do all of this. Rolling the pool twice. As a player, if a player takes an action that's both time-consuming and reckless, when there are already 5 tension dice in the tension pool, you don't have to roll the tension pool twice. Just add the 6th tension die and then clear the tension pool. But you can roll the tension pool twice if you want to. Depending on the results, you can introduce 2 complications, combine 2 complications into one especially complicated complication, or introduce a particularly terrible complication. It's up to you. Complications are unexpected developments that make the player's lives more complicated, just as the name implies. They might represent encounters with monsters, hazards, or traps, changes in the environment, troubling revelations, setbacks, injuries, or losses, or even enemy machinations happening behind the scenes. Complications should always involve a risk, cost, loss, or sacrifice. If these are being rolled in the open in front of the players, I mean, I guess they should be like, oh, we got to roll. Everybody would be like, oh, what happens with the tension dice? Take a look at it. That sounds very West Marches players against the world kind of thing. So it might be able to be used there too. Because the players are supposed to be seeing this going in. Oh, we'd better hurry up, or there's going to be a cost to this action. It makes there be a cost to any long action, because that's putting dice in this pool. I like that. E. Armstrong says, this seems like a good thing to use instead of group stealth checks. Nobody has to roll until the tension has peaked. Oh. I'm getting echoes of our conversation about 10 candles in the member stream. Yeah, I almost brought up 10 candles, and I should have. Because we loved the way that 10 candles represents time. So this is yeah, something to be talked about, I think, within the context of that same conversation. That's complicating the complication. LOL, Kronos says. So you can imagine that a complication represents something taking an action against the players. That something could be enemies, cosmic forces, luck, fate, the gods, the world, the environment, narrative causality, or the perversity of the cosmos. Complication timing. When the tension pool results in a complication, that complication can arise immediately. Simply describe the event and play out the results. You can also delay introducing a complication until later in the game. Just don't wait too long. A complication should arise soon after the tension pool roll it resulted from. It's important for the players to see that complications, so it's important for the players to see that complications come from the tension pool and are thus a result of their inefficient or reckless actions. Otherwise, they will lose the all-important sense of agency that keeps the complications from feeling like a random screw job. Because their actions put dice in the tension pool. Complication scope and scale. Generally, a complication should be an annoyance, not a disaster. Rarely should a complication pose a threat or challenge similar to that of a normal encounter. When a complication includes a major threat, the player should be able to avoid it at a cost. Players should only earn minor rewards for dealing with complications. They should offer only minimal amounts of experience, treasure, glory, and other in-game rewards, if any. Random complications. Rather than inventing complications on the fly, you can prepare a list of complications appropriate for the game you intend to run. Then you can randomly determine which complications arise during play. Organize your complications by their rarity or impact. Common or mild, uncommon or moderate, rare or major, and very rare or extreme. Then arrange those complications as shown in the example tables below. So we're rolling the classic here, 1d8 plus 1d12. That's the classic for a random encounter, right? Result, 1 to 2, very rare or extreme. 5 and 6, rare or major. 7 to 8, uncommon or moderate. 9 to 13, common or minor. 14 to 15, uncommon or moderate. 16 to 17, rare or major. And then 18 to 20, very rare or extreme again. Or here is our advanced random complication table. I was watching somebody else. Was that Baron Durop who was talking about a different way to organize your random encounters? I think I watched that video, or maybe somebody here pointed me to that video about organizing a way to organize random encounters. I wonder, I have to go back and watch that. I wonder if you could use that system to organize our complications as well. Although this is very classic and kind of old school. Lynn lets us know that if you have 6 dice in the pool, you have a 67% chance of rolling at least 1-1 and getting a complication. What's so cool about how 10 Candles does it is that it isn't arbitrary, though. This tension pool is reliant on GM fiat. It is reliant on GM fiat, yes. But that's because, like, for instance, if you're going to be using this in a 5e game, it's because 5e doesn't define time-consuming or reckless. If you define time, if you have a set number of actions and you've got, or different types of actions you can take, if you designed the game so that you knew exactly what a reckless action was or a time-consuming action was, then you'd remove the GM fiat for deciding which ones those are. Chrono says, start rolling, do nothing but look super serious, LOL. I guess it has more in common with the Bennies and Savage Worlds then, or some other kind of hero points. It's just that the players give hero points to the GM in this approach. Kind of, yeah. The D8 plus D12 roll might seem odd, but it was actually one of the methods used to determine random encounters in early editions of Dungeons & Dragons. Mathematically, it provides a very convenient probability distribution. Results in the middle of the table are all equally likely, and the probabilities fall off sharply for the outlying results. You can also roll 2d10 to similar effect. The time pool. The time pool is a variant of the tension pool you can use to track time more precisely during gameplay. The time pool uses the tension pool like an hourglass. The tension pool represents a specific unit of time, and each tension die represents a fraction of that time. The time pool approach does involve some abstraction and hand-waving, and it takes a few sessions of play for players to get used to it. But it does enable precise time tracking without a lot of bookkeeping. Well, we know what Sable Phoenix is going to bring up here, that in precise, you can't run an effective game or campaign without accurate timekeeping. So here's an alternate way to do this. Time scale. When setting up the tension pool as a time pool, first decide on the appropriate scale based on what's happening in your game. Minutes or hours. When players are delving dungeons, infiltrating bases, or engaged in other moment-to-moment adventuring activities, the time pool represents 1 hour, and each die represents 10 minutes. That's handy. So that's why it's 6. So, okay, well, now I like that too. So when you're using the tension mechanic, that is more arbitrary with the amount of time. But here, we're saying the time pool is 1 hour. That's why it's 6 dice. And each die is representing 10 minutes going by. Hours and days. When players are exploring civilized lands, investigating mysteries, or running errands in town, the time pool represents 1 day, and each die represents 4 hours. When the players are traveling in the wilderness, the same time scale applies. Days and weeks. When the players are recuperating between adventurers, buying and selling goods, crafting equipment, or hunting for their next adventuring lead, the time pool represents 1 week and each die represents 1 day. The days and weeks scale implies a 6-day week. You can either adjust your in-game calendars accordingly, assuming that there's 1 day each week in which it's impossible to do business for cultural or religious reasons, or just not worry about the minor inconsistency of the 6-day week that this creates. You cannot, yes, there we go. You cannot run an effective campaign if accurate time records are not kept. Oh, the quote is meaningful campaign. Please do hit the like button. Thank you, Vision. Oh, Lynn says that's convenient. The calendar in my game world has a 6-day week. Adding dice to the time pool. The time scale defines a time-consuming action. For example, any action that takes between 2 and 10 minutes constitutes a time-consuming action at minutes and hours scale. Any action that takes more than an hour but less than 4 constitutes a time-consuming action at hours and days scale, and so on. Moreover, when in-game time passes, add the appropriate number of dice to the time pool, regardless of the player's actions. A good practice is to round up actions to the nearest time increment when using the time pool. After all, adventurers do a lot of moving around, chatting, digging through bags, handing off light sources, and double-checking things. Picking a lock might be possible in 5 minutes, but when you factor in the debate about whether to pick the lock or just bust down the door, the rogue digging out his tools, the wizard coming closer with the light, the rogue examining the lock carefully and selecting the right mix of tools, the rogue packing away his tools, and so on, you can easily get 10 minutes of wasted in-game time out of it. A half-hour conversation in town can fill hours when you factor in asking around about the person's location, setting up the meeting, exchanging pleasantries, and arguing about who's paying the tavern bill. Here's a good rule of thumb when it comes to dungeon exploration. Add 1 tension die to minutes and hours time pool for every room wherein the players have an encounter and then ransack, or every 3 empty rooms the players casually wander through. Durations and the time pool. Rather than tracking the precise durations of in-game effects, you can simply decrement or expire any long-lasting effects when you clear the pool. I thought that's where we were going to be going. So you can simply decrement or expire any long-lasting effects when you clear the pool. Whenever you clear the time pool at hours and minute scale, for example, decrement all ongoing effect durations by 1 hour, regardless of when that effect came into play. This abstraction will sometimes lead to effects expiring after only a few minutes when they should have lasted for an hour, but the players will eventually learn to synchronize their long-lasting bonuses with the clock, and abstraction saves a lot of bookkeeping in the long run. I can see that. Because there's something that happens at the table. All of these dice are rolled and cleared. Everybody at the same time decrement some increment from your effects. Actions that fill the time pool. The players will sometimes take long actions that are sufficient to fill the time pool, and then will sometimes occur long spans of uneventful time summarized in a single sentence of narration. Examples include the players taking an extended rest while exploring a dungeon or uneventful day of travel across the wilderness. Whenever in-game time passes sufficient to completely fill the time pool, simply roll all 6 tension dice as if you were rolling and clearing the pool to check for a complication. Then continue play as normal, introducing complications whenever you see fit. If there's any tension dice in the time pool when you roll a full pool in this way, replace them after you roll. Okay, so whenever in-game time passes sufficiently to completely fill the time pool, simply roll all 6 tension dice as if you are rolling and clearing the pool to check for a complication. Then continue play as normal. If there are any tension dice in the time pool, when you roll a full pool in this way, replace the ones that exist that were there at the beginning. Yeah. So you still have the remainder back on the table. Changing timescales. Whenever in-game action switches from a larger timescale to a smaller timescale, clear the pool by rolling the dice currently in the time pool and then setting all the tension dice aside. Frequently asked questions. How does the tension pool change the game? Why does it work? Let's see. In most RPGs, time just doesn't matter, which we say time and time again, as they say, is a problem. Unless there's a time limit on the scenario, the players can waste as much time as they want without jeopardizing their chances of success. And time limits just don't always make sense. The tension pool makes wasting time a risky endeavor. If the players waste time searching a room over and over, convinced there's something to find, or arguing about which direction to go, they increase the odds that complication will sap them of their resources and make it harder for them to succeed. Which is what we want, or I do. The tension pool also provides a way to classify actions in terms of their risk and efficiency. In most RPGs, there's little difference between smashing a door down and picking a lock. I think that's part of what Sable Phoenix was just talking about. It's an arbitrary call on the GM as this stands as kind of a general rule right here, because in most RPGs, there's little difference between smashing a door down and picking a lock. So players simply do whatever they're most likely to succeed at. Under the tension pool, breaking the door down is reckless, whereas picking the lock is time-consuming. Most importantly, though, the tension pool mirrors human psychology regarding the awareness of time, risk, and stress. People's awareness of time and risk rises and falls, which leads to all sorts of interesting behavioral patterns, including things like risk homeostasis and the gambler's fallacy. Most people just aren't aware of how the passage of time, tension, stress, and risk alter their behavior, so it's almost impossible for a role player to portray a character under similar conditions. The tension pool imposes a rising and falling awareness of time, risk, and stress, and tricks the player's brains into playing characters as they'd behave under actual stress conditions. Well, that's saying it does a lot. Very interesting. What if the players game the system? Isn't that metagaming? Good, that's precisely what you want. As noted above, the tension pool imposes a sense of time passing and growing danger that helps put the players in the same mindset as their characters. Something most role players lack the psychological awareness. I guess that is the psychological awareness to deliberately pull off. The truth is, in real life, people often game the system when it comes to managing time and risk. If you've ever taken a time test, you've gamed the tension pool system, even if you've never noticed your own behavior. Initially, you're focused on the test and barely noticing time sliding by, but then as you glance at the clock, that makes you assess how you're doing. As a result, you either relax and take your time for the next few questions, or else you become stressed and rush through the next few questions. Eventually, you forget about the time and focus again. When you hit a particularly difficult question, you become aware of how long you're taking in one question and become stressed. Depending on your personality, you might make a reckless guess and move on rather than waste more time on that question. Or you might move past the question and come back later. Either way, after you deal with the hard question, you generally become more careful and focused on the next few questions. Different players respond to the tension pool in different ways, but they all respond. Some get reckless when it's empty and careful when it's full. Others ignore it until a complication arises or doesn't arise and then grow more careful afterwards. Others still refuse to pay it any attention, staying disciplined in their decision-making. In short, gaming the tension pool actually makes the players behave more like their characters, responding to stress, risk, and time pressure organically. Neutromancer says, I don't like it when actions are perfectly classified and gamified unless it's for a GM-less game. It feels more appropriate for a computer game. Well, so, I mean, different people will like the different degrees of being gamified. Different things for different people. Some people will be fine with this being completely under GM fiat, and it probably runs pretty well. But on the other hand, some people will want that defined. And if you're starting from the ground, well, I don't know. It depends on what you're looking for. If you're starting from the ground up, then you may or may not deliberately define what types of actions they are. Defining it by time, the amount of time it takes. So, but even if you define it by the amount of time it takes, then or noise it generates, you would still have to have the GM make a call on that, I suppose. So can you provide examples of complications? Sure. An ogre comes crashing through the underbrush. You see a corporate security patrol heading up the street towards you. The floor gives way, a pit trap. Ouch, a thorny plant scratches you. You start to feel dizzy. A mysterious stranger calls out from the shadows. A recent rock slide blocks the way forward. A fall of gravel draws your attention. A landslide. Swollen with snowmelt and recent rain, the river has washed out the bridge. Unbeknownst to you, the Thieves' Guild has set their plan in motion. Lots of examples here. A stray shot must have hit the drive core. The whole reactor could melt down. What are the odds? Oh, look here. What are the odds of a complication arriving? The probability that a complication arising varies with the number of tension dice in the tension pool when you roll it. 1, 16.7, 2, 30.6, 3, 42.1, 4, 51.8, 5, 59.8, 6, 66.5. If you use the 1d8 plus 1d12 method described to randomly determine the impact or rarity of a complication when it arises, the probability for each class of complications are as follows. A common or minor complication 41.7% of the time, an uncommon or moderate complication 27.1% of the time, a rare or major complication 18.8% of the time, a very rare or extreme consequence 12.5% of the time. If you use the D8 plus D12 method described above to randomly determine the impact or rarity of a complication when it arises, here's a comprehensive list of probabilities depending on the number of dice and the tension pool when you roll it. Oh, nice. I'm going to have to zoom out, I think. So number of dice in pool, chance of no complication, chance of common complication, chance of uncommon complication, chance of rare complication, and chance of very rare complication. Nice table. So with 6 dice in the pool, there's an 8.3% chance of a very rare or very rare complication. There's a 33.5% chance of no complication. That's granular. That's granular. How can I modify the tension pool to make it work even better? Don't. It's already great. In all seriousness, the tension pool is yours to do with as you please, but the rules for managing the pool, the number of dice, the way they're added, when they're rolled, have to be carefully designed and thoroughly tested. Lots of gamers have used these rules. They're simple, intuitive, and easy to grasp. Exactly what you want from a visible table rule that changes player behavior. Because the tension pool represents the merciless forward march of time and the consequent rise in narrative action, no one should have the power to mess with the tension pool. Don't invent class abilities, spells, or even monster abilities that add or remove tension dice from the pool. At best, you can build game effects that force you to roll the pool, like a security alarm or a monster screaming for help. If you want to get creative with the complications. If you want to lower the overall probabilities the tension pool provides, add some very minor complications to the list. Things like scary noises and minor distractions that add flavor to the game but have no other effect. If you want to make an adventure site unique, build a unique complications table. If you want to make a site dangerous, include only high-impact complications on the list. Or make the minor complications very rare and the extreme complications common. Or invent a new, unique way of determining or using complications. In short, the complications are a great place to express your creativity and make the mechanic your own. The basic rules of the tension pool itself, those should be indelible, unchanging, merciless forces of the universe, or at least merciless forces of the narrative temporal causality that governs the pretend elf universe. All right. Blades in the Dark does this with the clock system. We still got to look at Blades in the Dark, and we need to look at Lamentations of the Flame Princess too. Blades in the Dark, those are still on the list. Where's my piece of paper? Well, my notes are someplace. Oh, I almost spilt a whole bag of paint. I didn't, though. Lamentation of the Flame Princess, Blades in the Dark, yes, both of those are on here. Sable Phoenix says, you technically have numerous tension pools that can all be going at any one time and can be at different stages of completion. So I guess the players are also looking at the clocks. Reminds me of the Fate random tables. Each slot having different odds. Oh, I don't know if I've seen Fate random tables. And it's shaped like a triangle, which is cool. random table by rolling fate dice. I haven't seen that. All right. Well, I think something like this would be an interesting thing to introduce to a game, because I'm all about adding time to RPGs. So I think I would try this out the next time I run a game, and it's possible that I would want to integrate something like this into Fated Edge. All right. Well, I am going to call it right here. I am going to go back and sleep for a little bit, and then get back up and talk to Brianna. I will put in the Discord server what is going to happen tonight, if anything. I will see if Brianna has something to go on tonight. She might be busy. I think I've messed up with the holiday about who's going to be where. But there is the Discord server. Oh, I think I hit a wrong. Ignore that link. It's got an extra letter. There we go. Clocks can be known to the players or not. Use clocks to both represent how likely a patrol of guards is to discover one of the PCs picking a lock or a rival gang put into motion. All right. So we will see. I gotta go get sleep. Thank you so much for being here with me. I feel better that I sat down and did this. This is one that we wanted to talk about, or I wanted to talk about with you anyway. We will think more about it when we talk about time. It along with the 10 candles discussion. Everybody, go be productive, be creative, and grind on. Talk to you later. Bye.